disappear forever.
Okay, it's 5 o'clock. Greg, are you done with your asset list for the, okay, all right. We're going to call the meeting to order. Mr. Thomas, will you lead us in prayer?
Sure. Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this opportunity to come together and serve the people of Wakulla County. Just ask you to be present with us tonight. Guide our hearts and our minds and our actions for the benefit of those that we serve. We ask you a special hand of protection over those that are down south that are rebuilding. Just be with them during this difficult time. Be with our first responders and our military as they keep us safe. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Wish to approve the agenda. Second. Any changes? Voted? Summer? No. Where's the one to add something?
I have something to bring up under the,
Oh, it's not an add-on item.
not an add-on item.
Randy, focus. Okay. All right, I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Citizens to be heard, Jess? David Damon?
David Damon, Crawfordville. Thank you, Commissioners. I want to use this 3 minutes in Citizens to be heard to talk a little bit about the ordinance for the RV and trailer parks coming up, because 3 minutes isn't much time to talk at the other part of this. So here's the problem I have with it. A lot of these are full-time trailer parks. That's what ends up happening. People move there. It's cheap to live there. Why is it so cheap to live there? Because we don't charge much for county services. They pay very little in county services, like Sheriff's Department, for instance. It's amazing how many times the Sheriff's Department has to go down to one of these RV parks, and they pay very little for those services and their property taxes. So who pays the rest of it? The taxpayer, Wakulla County. Now the argument's going to be that, oh, well, those are tourists that come to the county and they're going to spend money. Well, we don't have Disney World, we don't have Epcot, we don't have any of those things here. Sure, they're going to buy groceries and they're going to buy gas and they're going to buy bait, but we all do that. So what is the advantage to giving this away to all those people that are staying in travel trailers? Why do we do it? And I want to show you an example. Can I get you out of here? This, let's see. Tell you what, you take that. Good job, Renee.
There we go. Dana.
Keep walking. Keep walking. Keep walking. Dana Ross. Keep walking. Keep walking. Keep walking. Keep walking. Okay. These are the number of calls to the Sheriff's Department. These are calls to the Sheriff's Department for one park over a 3-year period. And they're all similar. I'm not picking on anyone. I'm not going to say which one this is. But the problem is, who pays for all these? Who is footing the bill for all this? Because they're paying very little. As a matter of fact, I'll show you how much they're paying. Renee can do that for you. Can you hold that up? What she is holding up.
Hey, Miss Renee, could you go sit down, please?
Exactly. I was going to say, this is, who's recording?
Okay. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Okay. This is what they are paying with their taxes for those services. So, this, on the floor, all of these calls right here are being paid for by property taxes of existing taxpayers in our county. So if you don't address this tonight with the RV ordinance, if you just let them have a free ride and continue to, and they can pass this on to the people that are staying. This isn't a hardship on them. Just charge a little extra each night, but don't put this on the back of taxpayers. Otherwise, it's a tax hike.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's a great visual, but I
The
would say,
CVS receipt.
tear off the portion for the folks that have RVs that are not licensed, because that's basically what's on here tonight. An inspection to make sure it's licensed, roadworthy, And that kind of lumps people that are legal and haven't built additions on, that's the whole ball of wax, and that doesn't really fully address what the ordinance is before us to.
I don't understand the analogy. I mean, we're voting to regulate RV parks tonight, not allow more RV parks. But anyway, it was a good presentation. Thank you, Randy.
Thank you, Dave.
Yeah. Any more awards and presentations? Nope. Okay, we're going to go to consent.
Move consent.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. No consent items pulled for discussion. General business.
Yes, this is a request for the board's acceptance of the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee's 2022 Incentives Review and Recommendations Annual Report and request board direction regarding the recommendations. There are 11 incentives that state statute provides to local governments to encourage and incentivize more affordable housing options within each jurisdiction. The committee's charge is to review these incentives and make recommendations to the commission for consideration. And staff is recommending out of these 11 recommendations that the board go ahead and authorize staff to look at amendments and revisions to our LHAP, our Local Housing Assistance Plan, to reduce the down payment assistance from $15,000 to $10,000 and to increase the maximum loan amount for new purchase assistance criteria based on the current standard under Florida Housing Finance.
Motion accept the Affordable Housing Committee 2022 Incentive Review and Recommendation Annual Report, and also accept staff recommendations to rework the layout.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Passes unanimously.
Next agenda item, number 19, request board approval of an application update letter to Triumph Gulf Coast grant application committing additional county funds for a countywide emergency communication system. This requests the board to approve an additional $1 million $1 million to support the construction of this system. Providing this system will provide communications for a new communication system for our public safety personnel, including the Sheriff's Department, Wakulla County Schools, Public Works, EMS, Fire, and also to help protect citizens and the business owners in our county. The total asked from Triumph Gulf was $12,038,000, and we would like to request $1 million match to go towards that.
So move. Second.
Is the West Department also going to be on this, or just
Yes.
public safety?
Public Works, yes.
And there's needs upgrading also.
Yes.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Just one comment. So as presented, if this flies and we get this approved through Triumph, then they will be providing about 2/3 and we'll be providing 1/3 of the.
They will be providing, of the construction dollars, they'll be providing $11 million of the $12 million. We'll provide $1 million, and then our match on the ongoing is over the next 15 years, we'll provide $5 million in maintenance.
Which we would have to do anyway. Obviously, we'd have to know.
We've committed to do that because the system prior to this was not, we didn't maintain it well. So, but we created its own department in the general fund particularly for this, and we'll contract for those services.
Sounds good.
So this is an added $1 million of
Right, and we had already budgeted, we had foresaw something like this happening, we had budgeted $1 million to,
That money was reimbursed.
it's our revenue stabilization funding. Yes,
That's right.
yes.
That's what I
Thank
said.
you.
Have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Passes unanimously. Moving into public hearings.
Yes, this is a request for the board's approval to conduct a public hearing and adopt an ordinance and a fee resolution regarding commercial travel trailer parks. The board has had several discussions related to RV parks, length of stay, and road-ready standards. This was also discussed at a workshop earlier this year. The proposed ordinance does outline that all RVs within the commercial travel trailer parks be fully licensed with current registration and ready for highway use. equipped with roadworthy wheels or a jacking system, be attached to the site with only quick disconnect type utilities, and have no permanent attachments such as additions, roofs, stairs, decks, or porches. This is countywide, whether you're inside of a special flood hazard area or outside of the special flood hazard area. This would also establish an annual inspection process to ensure that all RVs within approved RV parks are compliant with this ordinance. And the fee resolution does outline fees based on the number of RV parking spaces in each park. And the park owner would be obligated to obtain an annual permitting fee. This is based on previous board direction. Staff is recommending option 1 for approval. I would note that the Planning Commission did review this ordinance, also recommended unanimously for approval of this. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Motion to approve.
Second for discussion. Originally, because I read through a lot of this today, and what I asked Summer about, why would we not make this county for all RV park? I mean, not just for the RV parks, but if it's in somebody's yard. If we're going to look at trying to regulate this, but she's saying that's probably better if we do it through a
Code enforcement.
I know she said this was a kind of a nightmare for us to try to put it all on one person, but I'd really like for us to take a look at it for, I mean, not just for RV parks, but if it's going to be a rule, let's have it rule for everybody, not just for the RV park or for somebody building a house or something.
The problem with that is then you become a proactive enforcer of the code, and they're going to go out looking for people's trailers.
Well, it would obviously have to be, you would have to make it complaint driven.
Well, it is now.
Right, it is currently complaint driven. There are provisions for storage of parked vehicles in our codes right now that would pertain to boat trailers as well as, a standard car, pickup truck, and RVs. And so, we do respond to complaints about inoperable vehicles or the manner in which vehicles are stored. And sometimes these are non-compliant to our current ordinance standards. We do respond to those complaints. It is all code enforcement now. If we went through a mechanism where we were proactively enforcing the storage of all vehicles parked, we could encounter some selective enforcement concerns from a legal standpoint. I'll defer to our legal counsel on that, but that would be my initial concern in selecting only RVs to be enforced.
I know for a fact, I got a call from a guy there in Northwood who was living in a camper behind a mobile home he had sold.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy had to move.
That's
and
correct.
He called me like, "Can you help me?" I said, "No, I mean, you can't live in a camper."
I just don't want it to be like, I rode down to, a gentleman called me down at Fishing Forward there, and if you look at the very last piece of property, I'm not sure who owns it, there is 4 either 5 campers on the right at an abandoned house.
They need to call code enforcement.
And there are people living in them, and every one of them, and I'm not, something needs to be done about that. I'm not for kicking somebody out and putting them on the street. I don't know, but maybe have some type of.
Well, there's facilities for those RVs, so you wouldn't just have code enforcement go by and tell them to move.
And I would just stick with the issue on this one, which was RV parks. We're trying to deal with that right now, which is.
Because that's already, what they're doing is already not according to code, and I don't know how many times I've called about RVs, because I had people call me and say, and I drive by and I can see these RVs, and I go, okay, it's a code violation, okay? So I call somebody and she gets it corrected. And, they have the facility, the ability to go to an RV park at least and check in and pay their fee and have a place to live.
Yes, I think I'm kind of along Mike's lines there. I think it creates a double standard. We need to be treating everyone the same. I think it puts extra on code enforcement, and for this fee, $40 to $220, depending on how many sites are there. That's not going to solve the illustration that David showed us. That's not going to collect enough money to cover the expense that's already there. And so, I think that if our goal is to make sure it's roadworthy and can get on the road and can evacuate, are we going to take the next step and say if you own an RV in this county, you have to get it out of the county when the storm's coming? I don't think we'd do that. But it's kind of the same standard that if I evacuate and I take my family and I leave my RV, on my property, then I'm taking that risk. But how are we going to apply that standard to people in an RV park and say, well, you got to go, but the rest of y'all, since you're not in an RV park, you don't have to go. And that RV can destroy the next door neighbor's property just as well as in an RV park.
Or it said they have to go, or it just has to be roadworthy?
It just has to be roadworthy.
They don't have to go, they can leave it there if they want to.
Yep. So the point is, why make it roadworthy if we're not going to?
Here's the reason why. Because the situation, as I understand it, the problem, because we always have to have a problem to address, not just make one up. RV parks are intended to be temporary places to stay, which most people that stay there are temporary. They're not intended to be a permanent place to park a camper, and that's where you live. That's not what they're intended. That's not what the code says, right? They're not commercial travel trailer parks. What is the word that we use for mobile home parks, or some specific?
It's not a mobile home park, it is a commercial travel trailer park.
Like I said,
That rule only applies today in a flood zone, correct? It doesn't apply.
The road-ready standards are only applicable to special flood hazard areas today.
which at this point, that's where most RV parks are anyway, right? Except the one at Wildwood.
Currently, yes. There are some others that may develop outside of the special flood hazard.
In my mind, the problem we're trying to address, if you want to call it a problem, is these are being utilized like subdivision lots, and somebody's living on them, they're building, porches on them or whatever, and I'm not, who am I to throw a rock at something like that? But that's not what the code says they should be doing. They're supposed to be temporary use. You come stay a few nights, you leave. You don't live there. And I understand people in situations, but how do you legislate around that, You can't just say, hey, I like you, so you can stay.
And that's a good question, and that's the hard part. There's no easy answer for that. That's right. That's where I roll back to let the market decide that, and let the owner of that property, and if he runs his campground down, then no one's going to want to come stay there.
Oh, yes, they
The
will.
market's going to stay on their side.
You have not been traveling very much in RVs, because you can go to places that are just slums. I mean, they're just horrendous, okay? And people live there. That's
Where should people live that's all they can afford? Where should they live?
there's opportunities to build towards something, okay? We put an ordinance out there so you can have a 600 square foot house, okay? Build you a 600 square foot house, okay? We allow that.
All sounds great.
Okay, but allowing RVs, okay, as permanent housing, and they're not designed for permanent housing. The facilities in there are not designed for permanent housing. And they have all the same cost as a house to us as a county, but they don't pay any of the taxes.
How do they have the same cost to us as the
We
county?
provide them all the same services that they're living there. Okay?
Okay.
And I'm sympathetic to your point, Ray, but we can't solve all the problems.
No, we can't. I just don't see that this solves hardly anything. I think it adds extra layers of government without creating a big solution for anything. And that's okay. If it passes, it passes. I'm gonna vote against it.
Well, you don't want to hear all that to speakers? Go ahead, Mr. Bender. That's how we do it here, remember?
Thank you, Ralph, for not listening to me.
Exactly. Thank you for standing there.
I just wanted to point out to you guys something you guys probably would have no reason to know, and that is that our office has changed our policies this year, this past tax year, and we are now assessing every single RV spot that we can find. That includes the one on Chuck Hess's personal property. We'll assess his house, and and I pay no chest, I don't know if he's got one or not.
I hope not.
But if he's got a spot outside his house where his friend can come and hook up an RV and stay for, 2 weeks to visit, we assess that. So it doesn't have, you just have a different DOR code for that? That's just like a fence or another thing, just the RV slot. That's correct. And the way we address, there are some RV parks that have, you just drive up, you can plug in, and that's all. And we call that a cheap RV site. Literally, if you go to the standards that we use, they call that a cheap site. Really? Then it goes all the way to the RV sites that has a pool and a recreation hall and those sorts of things. And the prices are dramatically different for those different sites. And I just wanted to just point out to you that the county will be receiving more tax income from RV sites in the future. And just by the way, there's some locations in Wakulla County where there's 5 RV sites on the site and nothing else. Where obviously they go down and park. They're usually on the river or something. They go down and park and stay for 2 or 3 weeks and then go back home. It's usually a family deal, and they'll all bring their RVs down. But each of those sites are now assessed as in that particular case, a cheap RV site, because there's very little associated with that. But I just wanted to point out to you that we have changed things. And this ordinance would apply also to commercial, right? Like Townsend Boat Club, for example, is not open to the public, right? So we wouldn't be inspecting them or nothing like that, right?
The ones we have identified for inspection
Gotcha.
that are legal RV parks are located in the agenda item.
Gotcha.
So the Wildwood Golf Course, he was selling those sites for like $50,000. Are you assessing those at $50,000?
I don't have the figures in front of me, but we assess those, RV, that one was a good one. Some of those have paved areas and some are just dirt. And the paved ones will be assessed differently than the dirt ones. So
I think he was doing 99-year leases.
He was.
But do you have access to that? Do you know which ones would fall under the 99-year leases?
Generally we do. I'm not going to say we do every one, but we keep track of that stuff. Yes.
If they record it.
Correct. If it's recorded, we got it.
Right. Thank you.
I just wanted to,
So that would,
you guys know that.
that would drive the value of that site up compared to just a straight rental site?
It should, yes.
Yeah. All right, some of what you pointed out sounds like it may address David's comments that there's more revenue coming in now because of that.
That is correct. There will be more revenue in the future from RV sites, commercial and non-commercial RV sites, because we're now picking those up.
If I get taxed for the fence around my pool, they should get taxed for an RV spot. Literally, it's broke down.
Someone, is there anything else you would like to add before I call up our speakers? So just to make sure that the public is clear, and I need for you to tell me if this is clear or not, with regard to what the agenda item is tonight, strictly deals with every single commercial travel trailer park, not anything that has to do with any ordinance that prohibits someone living in an RV.
Correct.
Thank you. David Damon?
Okay. So, Quincy, you just asked, well, how can it be as much as a house as far as services goes? Look at this. I mean, how often do you call the sheriff's department to your house? Probably not very often. I know I don't. But look how many calls go to these RV parks. So, the county should be charging, as I figure it, $2.73 a day for services. That's not bad. We're not talking about a lot of money here. You could add another $1 to that, make it $3.73 per site for each one of these per day, and it would offset the cost to the taxpayers, because right now, everybody in this room is paying for these people to stay at these RV parks. It would offset the cost. It would take away the feeling that we're subsidizing RV parks. People would probably not stay quite as long, And it just makes sense. The extra $1 a day could go towards some kind of code enforcement. You know, Ralph was talking about how do we pay, but we always hear this, how do we pay for code enforcement? How do we do these things? We'll tack on an extra $1 a day. Now, this is an ordinance on RVs. This seems to fit right into what we're talking about here. And it needs to be addressed. It's been ignored long enough. And this 4 RV parks in 5 years, 4 that I looked up and did the numbers on, is $1 million in taxes that these people are paying, not the people staying in the RV parks. That's just 4 over 5 years. And there's a lot more coming. And I think we need to address this because they're coming in waves. We're going to have so many of them. And otherwise, we're just subsidizing low-income housing, which there's a place for that, don't get me wrong, but this isn't it. These are travel trailer parks. And we're setting this up. You're doing nothing tonight except saying you have to have air in your tires and you can't attach a set of stairs or a deck to it. That's it. That's all you've done. I heard about this for last year. You and I talked about this, and I thought something was going to come forward, but this is nothing. It took a year to come up with put air in your tires and don't attach a deck to it. Here we are. I thought that maybe we would be addressing the real issue, the 1,000-pound gorilla in the corner, but we're not. We're just sweeping it under the carpet, kicking it down the road. This needs to be addressed. It really does. And it's revenue that the county should be collecting. You know, it's like impact fees on new construction that is, we always hear, oh, it just costs us too much to collect it. You keep doing that and you're just adding tax after tax after tax on top of all these people's taxes. Thank you.
Mr. Walt Dixon.
Madam Chairman, I need to point out to David and other people that when you go to an RV park, number one, you're going to have to pay sales tax on that amount of money that you charge a customer. And number two, you're charging bed tax. So we're collecting bed tax in Wakulla County. Out of that sales tax, we're going to get part of it back in Wakulla County. So we are collecting taxes. Also, unfortunately, our property appraiser there is going to assess that RV park. You know, I was hoping he wouldn't bring that up tonight, but, you know, unfortunately. So, and I was in the process of wanting to build an RV park. I don't know if I want to do it. I'm not. So, my concern is this, and David does have some good concerns, I'll have to admit, about some of these old RV parks that have problems. We had a workshop. I thought it was a good workshop. And what we're doing tonight is, I said, okay, we're going to all RV parks. You got to go out there and you got to make sure all of your customers that stay in there, that they have a tag that's ready to go. Well, I have no problem with that. The problem is we're kicking the can down the road, so to speak, aren't we, David? Because we have a lot of RV that's in this county staying at houses and vacant lots, et cetera, et cetera. You know, most of them are not roadworthy. And what you pass tonight is not going to solve that problem. And I was hoping that when we address RVs, we're going to address not only RV parks, every RV that's in these RV parks got to be roadworthy and have a tag. And at the same time, we're going to address how we can solve the problem of all these other RVs in the county that's sitting there. A lot of them hooked up behind the houses, a lot of them just out there individually. And they need to go by the same rules and regulations that an RV park does. And that's how we try to solve this problem. And that's why I'm asking you tonight is, let's don't kick the can down the road. Let's wait and let's try to solve some of these problems all at one time with a good ordinance. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. So is it legal for someone to live in an RV on a property,
No,
even if there's an
not
existing house
in
there?
residential and all commercial zoning categories. The commercial travel trailer park or zoning district does not specifically prohibit you from residing there, but it is the district's intent in the black and white reading to be temporary accommodations.
But if you're in Songbird or you're in Wakulla Gardens you can't pull a travel trailer, either on a vacant lot or on a lot with a house in it and have somebody live in it, right?
That's correct.
We already have an ordinance to address that. This is something different. So my motion stands.
Randy, was your motion to approve the ordinance, and you have anything else to say?
Was.
I got another question.
Sure.
So we do have a provision that people can live in an RV as part of an approved family enclave.
That's correct.
I thought we got rid of that.
No, for,
We do have the family enclave agreement provisions still on the books. Those are under the temporary use ordinance because those are intended to be temporary uses as well.
We have to renew that.
They renew that annually.
I would have swore there was some.
We got rid of the mobile home. We got rid of the allowable use for mobile homes, moved that to RVs, and we've only allowed medical hardships with doctor's notes.
The issue was people were putting in a septic tank and then they didn't want to take it off.
So as part of that annual renewal process, do we require those vehicles to be roadworthy and maintain tags?
We do not do on-site inspections for roadworthiness.
This would create a double standard for that as well.
Well, yeah, but if they have to get re-inspected and reapproved, or
That's
they,
just a paperwork.
How many of these are?
They do have to do an annual approval or a renewal of that permit with new documentation from their physician, but they are still subject to our standards for parked vehicles and junk vehicle ordinances, so they, in theory, still have to be road ready and operable.
Code enforcement,
But that would require a code enforcement complaint.
inspection as part of the annual renewal.
Correct.
How many of these are we talking about?
Family enclaves,
That have a,
for RVs, half a dozen, maybe.
we're not talking about something with epidemic portion. It's only 6 people.
But, I mean, how many people do we have that are living long-term in junk RVs, as Chuck points out? That's probably not a large number of people.
are you talking about in a mobile home, in a travel trailer park or on a private property? I don't know.
There's probably not that many, to be honest with you.
Not that many, but it's one of those things as we keep expanding them because they keep coming forward. The chance of that happening is going to increase significantly.
I just feel like if we're gonna do it for one, we need to do it for everybody.
Well, that's not what this ordinance is about tonight, though. Tonight, this ordinance is about a commercial travel trailer park. Correct? So, nothing's changed, no magic things have happened with regard to what has to be there anyway, 180 days or road ready.
That's correct. There's been no changes in the FEMA standards under our flood ordinance for the use of RVs. It's 180 days or these road-ready standards.
So the only change with regard to passing it on to the commercial travel trailer park owner is they would have to get a permit for code enforcement to come in
And inspect.
and inspect all of the RVs.
Correct, to ensure compliance with these provisions.
But the change with this would now be applying to RV parks that are not in the special flood hazard.
It's for everything.
It would apply for both, in or out of the special flood hazard.
Okay, what's your motion again, sir?
Motion to approve. Mike seconded it though, but he indicated he wasn't going to vote for it, so he might want to withdraw his second.
Well, a second for discussion, since this is pertaining just to RV parks, I will vote for it because I think we need to have some type of standard. But I still think we need to look at, and I know what Summer said, code enforcement, there's gotta be something done on, and I didn't realize how many there were until I rode down to Panacea the other day. And I'm not for kicking anybody out, I don't mean it like that, because maybe that's all they can afford to do. But if they should be able, and we can deal with that at a later time, to have some type of standard for them also. Most of them houses are in the floodplain down there also. So, motion to approve for the.
I already made the motion.
Oh, okay, well, second.
One more question for you, Summer. How much do you think, just a ballpark figure, is this going to be more work for Linda or whomever?
This will definitely be an added responsibility to the department and to code enforcement. That's where I envision this kind of falling in the lap of. This, with the number of operating parks, we can probably get through this annual inspection within a couple, 3 days, depending on the conditions and what we run into on site. We do have 4 or 5 other RV parks that, we think are coming down the woodwork or in process or ready for construction, so that, each year could add a day or 2 here and there, depending on how large those sites are, so.
And are they the same standards we hold to ourselves at Newport Park that we own? Length of
The new standards and rules that are in place do account for these types of
We're here because that's a new ordinance anyway, now.
Now we are, and their studies are a little bit different, because guess what? You can't regulate private business. So, anybody else? Oh, wow. Hi.
So how much revenue do you anticipate this to bring in annually?
I didn't actually calculate that up, so I'm not prepared with that. I apologize, based on the number of lots.
The number, I'd say $1,000 probably max.
Yeah, and these fees that are outlined are based off a kind of a test case. We did some studies on some existing parks, did, light inspections, kind of timed ourselves, and so that's how we came up with this formula to charge these fees. So these fees would strictly cover the cost of just that annual inspection.
And what happens to the park owner once we find the code enforcement? They come before code enforcement?
It would go through the
park owner.
code enforcement process. The park owner would be, and any fines that are subject to that would, in theory, help to recoup the cost of the code enforcement action. So we separated these issues. The annual permit fee and inspection would fall under this fee. If there's any additional code enforcement action, that would be handled as any other, standard code enforcement complaint, which we may or may not receive compensation for time invested.
Okay. Have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
4 to 1. Planning and zoning.
Good evening, and Madam Chair, to consolidate the next 3 items about the swearing in and the ex parte, if it's okay with you, I'll just do it all up front. Excellent. So if any member of the public, applicants, staff members are wishing to speak on the next 3 planning and zoning items, which are application R2215, R2220, or R2221, if you will raise your right hand first.
Dr. Wesley.
Awesome. Do you swear to affirm that the testimony and any evidence that you're going to present to the board is the truth and nothing but the truth? I do. Excellent. Thank you. And board members, as it pertains to your next 3 items, did any of the board members have any ex parte communications or site visits?
None.
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 Perfect. Thank you very much.
The first item this evening, tab 15, is R22-15. This is for the Green Acres Land Holdings LLC. This is a request to rezone from I-1 light industrial and R1 single-family residential to agriculture on just shy of 15 acres of land located on the south side of Jubilee Boulevard in Panacea.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye.
Good job.
You yes? Passes unanimously. 16.
This is an application for change of zoning R22-20 for Thomas and Teresa Walschlager. This is a request to rezone from C2 general commercial and RR1 semi-rural residential to LIC low intensity commercial on a 3.29 acre parcel located on the east side of Crawfordville Highway. This is the current site of the Walschlager's dentist office, Total Care Dental. This is in the Crawfordville town plan and in an area conceptually designated for low-intensity commercial.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I was just curious what was going there, so that would be, but I guess that doesn't make any difference.
Zoning.
I know, it's just,
That's not our business. That's the owner. We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Passes unanimously. 17.
This is the final application for change of zoning this evening, R22-21. This is a request to rezone from RR1 restricted to RR1, effectively removing the restrictions that were applied by a previous board in 1990. This restriction includes the prohibition for mobile homes to be allowed on any of the properties involved in this restrictive zoning ordinance. And again, this would remove that and allow future mobile homes to be placed on these properties if so desired by the applicant.
Motion to approve, and this simply removes an illegal, for lack of a better term, zoning restriction that should have never been done.
That's correct.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
so there are, what's the ordinance that doesn't allow mobile homes?
R1 is one zoning district that doesn't allow for mobile homes, and there's a handful of other residential zonings in Chapter 5 that prohibit mobile homes as well.
R1 and R.
R1's the most common one that we see.
Chuck, if I could, what did we reverse in Magnolia Gardens? It was homes only, but it had a condition that you could have a mobile home if it had a porch or something like that?
Yeah, so with Magnolia Gardens, instead of just removing the restrictions, the board opted to go ahead and rezone the entire area based on the, the neighborhood outcry for it to all be site-built homes. That changed to strictly R1 zoning.
So that didn't happen in this case, though, did it?
That's correct. We haven't heard from any of these property owners.
And it was RMH restricted, was Magnolia Gardens also RMH restricted?
RMH restricted in Magnolia Gardens, and as well as Grinders Edition.
I think there's a requirement it can be no older than 10 years old or something.
Yeah, there was some squirrely stuff. I think Grinders Edition was a little more squirrely. Yeah. It was, I think, an age restriction, size limitation in Magnolia Gardens. Y'all are digging back way far in my memory bank here.
These people would probably like to have their site R1 instead of R1.
Unless they want a mobile home.
I couldn't tell you. We notified all the property owners. We notified each and every one of these property owners, and we got no feedback from any of them. So I couldn't.
If we did do it homes only and somebody did have a mobile home, now we just made them not in compliance and they couldn't replace it with another mobile home, so.
Exactly.
Well, they couldn't have a mobile home up till now, and now they can.
Correct.
You're right.
Unless it was there prior to 1990, whenever this came about.
Right.
Currently, there are no.
Well, why the board in 1990 couldn't just zone it for homes only if that's what they wanted?
That would be match what.
I don't know. Somebody asked me what happened in 1985 last week, and I couldn't even begin to tell you what was going on then.
Well, R1, because that would be matching what's currently there.
I'm sorry?
Why didn't you change these to R1? Because that would be matching what the board.
So we're just, based on the previous board direction, it was to remove the restrictions to create something that was a legal zoning district, so that's all we did. If the board wants to look at doing something different with this area, we can definitely explore that option. I will say with the comprehensive plan's future land use designation of urban fringe, the R1 zoning district is actually not compatible with that land use designation, so it would take a comp plan amendment for compatible.
Is it,
Possibly. RMH may be possible, but that doesn't solve the...
what we're voting on tonight, is it compatible with the future land use?
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, I understand exactly what Chuck's saying.
Me too.
And, tomorrow,
What about that land that would have said I couldn't have a mobile home, and that's why I was moving in, and now my neighbor can be a mobile home?
Yeah.
Right, they can pull it up,
Very valid.
single wide trailer.
We've had 2 or 3 people come in opposition to this, even though it's clear, we're just clearing up something that shouldn't have ever happened.
Someone said illegal, not illegal.
Right. But those folks that were in opposition to us making this decision, they could come and do a request to rezone their property to R1. It just wouldn't.
Yeah, but not their neighbor's property.
So I would point out, if it makes you feel any better, that areas along Bay Pine just to the south of the subject property, so if you look at the screen, all of those lots on the right-hand side of Bay Pine Road actually are all existing mobile homes, so it's not uncommon for the area in this neighborhood to have mobile homes there.
I think half of them are mobile homes, about half and half.
Bay Pine in that section right there,
Yeah.
just south of the change, all of those on,
Yeah.
that's on both sides. There's one site-built house in there.
I understand. I'll go ahead with what we got. But I do understand the point. But if it's certainly compatible with the neighborhood around it.
It is.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Passes unanimously. No commissioner agenda items. County attorney,
I have items for you this evening.
county administrator.
Yes, we'll let Summer start off on during my time. She has a request of the board.
Thank you, David. Yes, I have a request for the board to hold a special public meeting to conduct a hearing for a Board of Adjustment appeal that has been received by our department due to some scheduling issues and our due public notice requirements. I would request that the board schedule a special public meeting on November 15th to hear this one particular application.
To schedule a meeting on November 15th. I would like to ask, it's a favor to me, can we do it in the morning or either in the early afternoon? It doesn't have to be a certain time. We're not talking about feral cats. This is just an appeal. Which works better, morning or
Morning,
10 o'clock?
earlier.
Mike, you okay?
I'll just.
I want to get up early. So we're going to get at 10 o'clock. Plus I got to
We
work.
want to move the meeting, but we don't want to get up early. What now?
I got to do work, my engineer work. I get up at 5 to start doing that, so 10 works better for me.
Oh, okay. All right, Randy.
So I'll make a motion to hold it that day at 10 a.m.
November 15th?
Uh-huh.
And all will be replaced at that point, but they just won't be sworn in. But I'll be here.
I don't have any.
Summer, I guess we should probably ask you if that works for you.
I'm completely fine with
Okay.
that. I appreciate the
You're welcome.
information.
Not really, Randy. Okay, anything else, David?
Yes, thank you. No, we didn't.
What's that? Second? Yeah. Now we need a.
Second and a vote.
Yeah, second and a vote.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Meeting November 15th at 10 o'clock due to Randy's schedule. Okay, county administrator?
Renee, did you get that?
Yes, as a golf course update, we have a final plan that I approved today to move forward. It'll be going to full design and specs, and we were planning to bid that out towards the end of this month. As soon as that's ready, is also the irrigation design was just sent over, and we'll be approving that to move forward, hopefully, and be bid out all at the same time. So that's moving forward. Clearing is still ongoing, and we have a little bit more clearing.
About irrigation.
Was that yes?
Are we even close to being ready to do Met Brick Park now?
What do you mean?
I'm just wondering if we could piggyback on the existing contract with the irrigation.
If possible, he's working on that design. Yes, it is possible. I've got to acquire a little bit more land for the pond area.
It's going to be a line pond?
Line pond.
Doesn't have to be though, does it?
But it needs to be. It needs to be. I need to store water. And, so yeah. But yeah, that would be nice to be able to get it all, but I was really hoping to get a grant to help us out on that, because to do all the entire park is going to be fairly expensive.
Gotcha.
So that's moving along. The clearing's going along well. We hopefully, as part of the bidding process, if everything goes out in the end of October, it'll be before the board for approval of the contracts to proceed 1st of January, first meeting or so. Also, sidewalk work has begun, and they've completed a bunch of it on Island Church. Road. I don't know if any of y'all noticed that, and what that is that's to collect the neighborhoods right there on the Ivan Church. They'll go to Bridle Gate, and then it will extend the sidewalk down Bridle Gate to an intersection at 319, and then we're working with those folks at, on the intersection as well, 319, to put a crosswalk in.
So they can all get the Publix.
So they can all get the Publix and all the future stuff that's coming that walk. That's right. That's going on. Also, the sewer infrastructure, the materials are coming in now for the Lawhon Mill force main extension y'all approved. That construction will start next week. So that'll be moving along, and that should go
How's that
rapidly.
going with flushing the line out, Ned? Is it that we're still,
Stay about the same.
do you have to regularly flush it out to bring the pressures down?
We do it every day.
Okay. But that is, if you didn't do it, the pressures would, gotcha. So that should resolve that whole issue then.
Yeah, once we get that force main, that'll help that for sure.
Still is not telling what's in there that you're not getting out.
Well, and you're talking about the bore now, we won't have the pipe, we're trying to get DOT to allow us to use HDPE pipe on the crossing, because right now, duct line, we can't get that little bit of 12-inch duct line, it'll be here in March. That little bit, it's crazy. I mean, nobody's got it,
Tallahassee didn't have any we could buy?
nobody's got it.
Wow. I mean, the city of Tallahassee.
We haven't checked with them, but
Ask them. They had a land on the yard up there.
it's SC.
Ask Tim Potter. That's the man you need to talk to. Yeah, Tim. He lives in Wakulla.
Yes.
He's the director of their utilities. He may have, come get
It was
it.
over on Raywinkle.
I'll give you a cell number.
I got it.
I'll tell you his wife's name. Okay. You got that, Ned? Okay, what else can I do?
Handicap.
Okay.
Whoa, cool with his wife.
One uppers, exactly. Goodness. Got that, Ned? We're gonna get that started tomorrow here. It's gonna be a group effort.
Need to utilize all resources.
Then the
available to us.
street.
You got it, yellow and small.
You ever heard the term ball and steel? This is what this is.
Also, lift station 76 will be before y'all for approval. The next meeting is first meeting in November as well. So,
I'm sorry, I missed out on that. I was back on Tim Potter.
station 76, force main.
Three more.
For y'all for approval.
Three more.
That force main, that'll extend from the Moore lift station all the way to Friendship Church Road. That'll be before y'all for approval of the bids for that, to award.
And that should resolve a lot of issues.
That right there, we're done.
Then the
We're not done.
Gordon's lift station will be one of main repumps, right?
We're setting up for the future to where we won't have to worry about this again.
Okay.
All right?
Anything else you want to add? Talk
I'd
about?
like to thank my staff. I have an awesome staff, by the way. But Summer but especially Michelle, she pulled together the legislative stuff really well. She's also
Brandy?
Well, and Brandy, naturally, she always gets, she didn't have any budget stuff today, and Debbie was here, thank her for that, and Jessica, but Michelle pulled together all the legislative stuff, which was great, and has coordinated very well with them, and we also have a big meeting on November 5th? 3rd, I always get that wrong. Golf Triumph, thanks, all of y'all need to be there, Randy. Because this is a $12 million and something our county severely needs, which is our communication system. If you can be there, it would be great to show support. Ralph knows a lot of the folks, and we're coordinating with him on a lot of this, but it's huge for this county to get this.
I don't know where that one's going.
I don't think they've said it. Is it in San Luis
Same
County?
place.
Yeah, it means you gotta travel, yeah.
Remember, if they're ever taking a dime of taxpayers' money for traveling.
And why don't you go then go on vacation or something, anyway.
Surgery that day.
But anyway, that's all I have, Madam Chair.
You got any-
Jessica, that was it, right?
you have nothing to say?
I said enough.
Mike Kemp, Commissioner Kemp? Commissioner Hess?
Well, I have this industrial zoning in Panacea that I just don't understand, but, there's some warehouses there, so we can't change it, so.
What was the problem?
They got some single-family residential's there, and somehow it got changed to industrial all by itself. Doesn't make any sense.
Probably got changed in 85, right?
Yeah.
That's what, same thing with Barney Hill's old place, it was industrial, right next to Middle Elementary School. we don't have a future land use map, we have an existing land use map. And the zoning, I think, was just made to whatever was there. That's why I had all that ag, because it's St. Joe.
I checked into that with Summer. I got a call from the realtor who had a contract on it, and they were ready to buy it, and then found that it was owned industrial, and they lost the deal over it. But what it looks like happened is when that was put in place, it was done industrial. So it hasn't been rezoned to industrial. It started out industrial.
It just doesn't make any sense. We wouldn't want industrial right there.
I'm guessing that if they had planned to change it, we probably would agree with them. It seemed like it'd be consistent to change it to residential, but someone would have to.
There was a couple of those in town.
That man, yeah, they could tell you why, but we'll get into that later. Walt would know.
Alrighty. Commissioner Ware, would you like to say anything?
Yes, I would. Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Y'all didn't realize you were going to be entertainment today too, right?